Most people think hitting $1 million is the finish line. The moment you've won, the moment everything gets easier and you're finally set for life. I think it's the moment you need to be most careful, because the biggest risk to your wealth doesn't come from a market crash or bad investment. It comes from what happens to your relationships when people find out. The moment you become the millionaire in the room, you stop being a person with a story and you become the answer to everyone else's problems. Today, I'm going to show you why $1 million is enough to secure your future, but it's almost never enough to secure everyone else's, and why keeping it quiet is the only way to keep it working. By the end of this video, you'll understand why millionaire status can warp relationships almost overnight, the cold math that makes your nest egg more fragile than it seems, and 3 non-negotiable rules to protect your wealth without losing friends. If we haven't met yet, my name is Steve. This channel is about long-term investing, financial clarity, and building real financial freedom, not hype. I've been investing for over 2 decades, and this is one of the most misunderstood milestones I see. Here's the problem. The word million isn't just a number, it's a cultural symbol. Society decided that $1 million is the "you made it" badge. We don't have books called the 100,000 there next door, do we? But when people hear that number, they get financial amnesia. They don't see the 15 years of eating at home. They don't see the 2015 Toyota you're still driving. They don't see the skipped upgrades or the long work weeks. They just see a money vault. And once people believe you've made it, they subconsciously assume you can afford to help. That's where the danger begins. You quietly become the fallback plan, the safety net, the person who can obviously afford more. It rarely starts with a $20,000 ask. It starts with a $60 dinner. You pick up the check once, no big deal, happy to do it. But the next time, nobody reaches for their wallets, not because they're bad people, but because it feels reasonable. $60 seems insignificant when they think you have $1 million. That's the shift. When generosity becomes logical instead of voluntary, the relationship changes. Support becomes expectation. Expectation becomes resentment. If people see you as an infinite well, they stop looking for other ways to fetch water. Privacy isn't about being stingy. It's about protecting the health of your relationships. Now let's talk about the cold math, because this is where the millionaire fantasy hits a wall. That $1 million isn't extra money. It's an engine. If you follow the 4% rule, a common guideline for a 30-year retirement, that $1 million produces about $40,000 a year before taxes. Take a look at what $40,000 has to cover. Taxes take a bite. Healthcare takes a big chunk. Inflation quietly eats the edges. Housing and maintenance take the rest. Suddenly that millionaire lifestyle looks a lot like a modest middle-class existence. For most people, that $40,000 isn't even enough on its own. It's a foundation that still needs Social Security or other income to actually work. Here's the part most people miss. That $40,000 is already your paycheck. It's spoken for. So when you take an extra $20,000 to help someone else, you're not spending bonus money. You're shrinking the machine that produces your income. And then what happens? That $1 million becomes $980,000. And because future income is calculated from that smaller base, the engine now produces about $39,200 next year and every year after that. You just gave yourself a permanent pay cut. And unlike your job, you can't work an extra shift to make it back. This becomes even more dangerous if you reach this milestone early in your 40s or 50s. This is exactly when the people around you are struggling the most with mortgages, tuition, and life transitions, and suddenly you're the most obvious solution in the room. You can't help anyone if you destabilize your own future. You still have to put your oxygen mask on first before helping everyone else. So how do you protect your first million and everything beyond it? You need 3 non-negotiable rules. First, radical privacy. Tell only who truly needs to know. For most people, that's a short list. Your spouse, your financial advisor, maybe your CPA. That's usually the end of it. Second, plan. Don't react. Decide your generosity based on a plan, not guilt. If you want to help others, make it a line item. Plan for it. When it's gone, it's gone. Plans have limits. Guilt doesn't. And third, set boundaries early. The time to set a boundary isn't when someone's in front of you asking for $10,000 or $20,000. It puts you in an emotional situation. You need to set the boundaries years before they ever think to ask, and you don't owe them an explanation if you set it up beforehand. So what do you actually say when people probe? You don't need to lie. You just need to redirect. If someone asks you how much you have, you can say enough to sleep at night, not enough to stop planning. If someone asks for a loan, you can say, I keep my finances and my friendships separate. It's a rule I don't break. If someone assumes you're covering dinner or a trip, you can say, I'm sticking to my budget this month. I can't swing it. Notice you're not saying you don't have the money. You're saying you have limits. Rules are easier to respect than decisions made in the moment. Now, I want to be very clear about something very important to me, and I'm sure it is to you. I actually do want to help others. This isn't about never helping. It's about when helping is actually smart. When you're just reaching your first million, generosity often comes from pressure, not abundance. You help because it feels uncomfortable not to, but timing matters. Here's the rule: help from overflow, never from foundation. If your portfolio produces $100,000 a year and you only need, say, $60,000 to live, that $40,000 gap is real freedom. You can give it away, help whoever you want, invest it, or use it to solve problems without putting your future at risk. But around $1 million, there is rarely overflow. The income is already spoken for. You're still building the base that everything else depends on. Helping too early doesn't make you generous. It makes your future fragile. The healthiest generosity comes from abundance, not obligation. The people who build $1 million and actually keep it are rarely the loudest ones in the room. As Morgan Housel said, wealth is what you don't see. It's the freedom to say no, the peace of knowing you won't be a burden later, the ability to let your money work quietly for decades. $1 million isn't a trophy to display. It's a tool to be managed, and it works best when it works quietly. I'm truly curious, do you agree with this quiet wealth message, or is transparency better? Let me know in the comments. And if you're on the path to your first million, or you've already crossed it, I put together a private guide breaking down the most common ways people actually reach $1 million. This isn't just investing theory, it's real paths: consistent index investing, home equity over time, retirement accounts, business ownership, and combinations of all of the above. It also includes how to protect that first million without damaging your relationships, the exact boundaries to set, and the language to use when people start testing your math. You can find that guide for free in my Patreon, which I will link in the video description and on the pinned comment. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all your support. And if you want to check out another one of my videos, click on this video right here. Take care, and I will see you next time.